Hello, Internet. My name is Adam K.K. Bay. I'm the director, producer, host, nonsense of FinalBossTV, and I'm sitting down here today to talk to you a little bit about the Shaman preview of World of Warcraft Legion. I am joined by past guest and the new Shaman aficionado. Hi, Wordup. What's up, buddy?
Hello, I'm back again.
Yes, and we're going to sit here for the next about 20 minutes or so and talk about our initial reactions with the Enhancement Shaman preview, which Reddit didn't really seem to like.
No one on Reddit liked it at all, apparently. That seems to be like the least well received of all of them.
Yeah, so there was a huge poll put up on Reddit recently that went through 14,274 responses in this thread and asked about what your current class is, what your current favorite class preview is, which there was some kerfuffle on Twitter about the Rogue One being like awesome, but I guess because the Rogue One is like all fantasy, like nothing really changed for the two of the specs and Outlaw looks cool, everyone's like, yeah, Rogue, rah! But
yeah, the Rogue One's got like added a bit of fantasy without really taking anything away, so I think people just like that bit.
And Shaman is the least most favorite, and then the least favorite, which makes sense. And it's pretty big. It's like half of those who voted did not like the Shaman class preview.
It's pretty damning.
It's a
I'd
little
say.
bit. A little bit. I mean, we talked about this before we were setting this up, but I think that like it's we both think it's the Enhancement Shaman version, because Elemental, like, got a better resource, got their old awesome mastery back. They don't have, like, poop shards flying in the air again. Hopefully it's like a talent or an unlock, just to be neat to have it still in the game. But, like, Resto didn't change much. Like, they're trying to force you away from Chain Heal. Oh, no, but there's a Chain Heal mastery, so, oh, yay. And then Enhancement is what we've been calling it, the Enhancement Warham lately. I'm still waiting for a Photoshop of a ham wielding two Doom Hammers with a lot of fur on.
Yeah, like the response can't be Resto because it's Resto's the same as it is now, what they've shown.
Right.
Elemental, I think, maybe a little bit annoyed that they didn't get any more changes than what they got, because it's the same spec with the bar added to it.
Sure.
But we are completely, like, everything's sort of flipped on its head. And it
Right.
might not necessarily be completely different to play. It just, face value, really, really different. So people might, like, just spit it out. I don't want to do it, which I'm guessing is what some of these responses were.
It's very scary because this is the first early preview. This is why we decided to do this video, which is these kind of videos. I hope, Internet, that you actually get more of these in the future. This is my first beta test of doing like a live recording session and talking to one representative from a class to just get like an early thought. And it's really great that this Reddit thread exists because this is another early thought. And it seems for the most part that... And the Shaman main one is a different thing too. It's like a good chunk of representation for the Shamans. I mean, 12% of this response on the Reddit is all Shaman, and then nearly. What's weird is that only 1.7 thousand Shamans of the main class, but over 7,000 people way after not even playing Shaman as their main didn't like the preview.
Yeah, and the Shaman one, there's only something like 400 that thought it was their favorite preview as well. So that means of those 1,700, there was like 1,300 that didn't like it. Or it wasn't their favorite, they liked something else.
Right, so what do you think is the reason for this? Why do you think this happened? What's your first initial breakdown of the Shaman preview in Legion, sir? I see you've been working on this little Google document here that I'll bring up. Ooh, Enhancement Legion overview by Wordup. Ooh.
I think, like, the reason that it's been received so poorly is because it is, like, on the surface, really different. Really, really different. If you just look at it like that, completely, it looks like from a ground-up overhaul of everything, which, if someone likes the spec now, is not going to be happy because they can't see any parallels to how they play the game currently.
It's interesting. I mean, the builder-spender system is relatively the same, right? I was talking about this on stream the other day that I think mentality-wise, the thing you want to look at that you have to change in your mindset is that you should be looking at, instead of spamming Lightning Bolt as a spender now, which is how we spend our ammo system of Maelstrom, you would be spending Storm Strike and then Lava Lash if you don't have Storm Strike up but it hasn't procced, and then you just hit Lava Lash instead. But it's all melee. Like, there's no more Railgun enhancement, no more Lightning Bolt, Lightning Bolt, Lightning Bolt like it is now sometimes with the Archimon Trinket, which their fantasy change is trying to make us feel like we're not just a melee elemental shaman, which is fine. But the background building of this whole new system is that we're kind of like Fury Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, my first reaction wasn't good. I'm the first to admit because I completely immediately saw nothing that I usually play now. But the more I think about it, the more you can see where the benefits will come from. There are still bits of it that I particularly don't like. I don't like the extended cooldown on Storm Strike and relying on a proc to do it,
Storm Fury. Yeah,
I can see you can draw the parallels to how Raging Blow is now, and that's not fun for Fury. But for the number tuning could reduce that completely, and it is fine. But it basically Storm Strike is going to now work with Storm Fury like Maelstrom does for us now, because Maelstrom is a resource that we generate and then we do a big damage spender on it. Storm Strike is going to be doing the same, but it's all at once instead of incremental, so you can't predict it as much, and it's much more important that you get rid of it as soon as it comes up. There's no waiting, there's no anything like that.
Right. I mean, your basic overview you had here is similar. Preach broke this stuff down. He broke down like every spec when they were coming out, every class when they were coming out, and he had a pretty similar overview here. Maintaining Flame Tongue, which the new Flame Tongue is basically just the new Unleashed Elements. It just lasts for 12 seconds, whereas it lasts for 16 seconds with a 12-second cooldown. So you have like this 4-second window to like.
It's a flat combination of Unleash and Flame Shock.
Right.
Basically, it's a short range, deals some fire damage, gives you a buff.
But we still might have Flame Shock though, which we haven't gotten confirmed or denied because of the new like no shock cooldown thing. We might still have Flame Shock. Which would still mean we would still actually use Flame Shock, but is it a Maelstrom spender like it is for Elemental? And if it is, we would only ever want to cast it at 20 or above Maelstrom because we want the whole duration to only cast it twice a minute. So, we're not losing any buttons. That's the big thing with Enhancement is we always had all these buttons to use, right? And right now we have this thematically based rotation that is very much a priority system, one of the last ones remaining in the game currently, and it's going to go away to this like RNG based builder spender, which the RNG can really determine how frantic the rotation is or how incredibly slow.
Yeah, there are a lot of problems that are there that you could see happening, but you have to actually play it to decide. I think that's part of the problem with how vague the preview was. Mm-hmm. I mean, I see in the mastery, the fact that the mastery is still there for increasing spell damage, but also having this new Storm Fury increase means that they go in two different directions. So Storm Fury is encouraging you to press Storm Strike. The more mastery you get, the more often you can press Storm Strike. Whilst you get more mastery, Lava Lash damage is going to go up, which means that the difference between Storm Strike and Lava Lash goes down, because Storm Strike doesn't scale with it. But those numbers might completely be tuned perfectly, so it's in their hands, basically, to get that right.
Well, you mean, like, Mastery does technically make Storm Strike scale because you'll proc more often, but you never necessarily are going to have... I mean, you should always have, because the proc makes it half cost, so it'd be only costing 30 Maelstrom, so you always kind of should have that. Whereas you mean the scaling of Mastery directly is that it increases nature and fire damage, so the Mastery will actually make Lava Lash hit harder. But you only
it makes Lava Lash a stronger spell, whilst the Mastery aspect for Storm Strike makes you use it more often, whilst it may not be much better than Lava Lash when that happens.
Right.
So if you think normally when you have those two spells, they'll scale linearly up. So Storm Strike will always be exactly, say, 3 times better than Lava Lash.
Sure.
When it comes up. When you've got those two different directions with Mastery going, that gets smaller, so it might be that Storm Strike is only 100% better than Lava Lash, or it may go even further and might be much smaller. So it means that the Storm Fury aspect may not work properly. But again, that is completely in their hands, and Stormstrike could have talents and any other crazy things around it to make it amazing.
Right. We haven't. People are freaking out really early on right now, and we haven't seen obviously the artifact hooks that we're going to be unlocking with all the different passive upgrades we can get for there. Or I don't know if they're all going to be passive. I assume the artifacts are all going to be passive, and like we'll have 100 base mastery now. But then what if we get a unlock our artifact that gives us 100 more? So then we have 200 Maelstrom passive. Like
yeah.
That would change the gameplay excruciatingly because we'll always kind of float probably up between like 30 and 60 all the time. You wouldn't just like dump it all into Lava Lash because we want to actually always have the Maelstrom around to Stormstrike whenever it happens. Because like what Preach said in his video too, early on in gear when you have less mastery and haste, the rotation's going to feel like you're going to spam Rockbiter all the time to generate. But then later on, when you have more haste and more mastery, so more Wind Fury procs and more Storm Fury resets, you're going to be just like head over heels in Maelstrom. And like all you're doing is like spamming Lava Lash and spamming Stormstrike as the class scales into endgame.
That's one of the fringe benefits of changing to this. Like, the more that you think about it, there's a lot more room to have dynamic scaling through the resource. Mm-hmm. That's what we lack right now. But like, whilst the gameplay is good right now, things have to be sort of compartmentalized into single target and AoE mechanics, and right. they can't cross over because they're two separate parts of the same kit. So, say with this change now, with Crash Lightning being Meat Cleaver, that means that Maelstrom generation becomes a single target and an AoE part of how we play. So that means there's room for cooldowns to just be Maelstrom generators.
Right.
So then we can use Ascendants for AoE or single target, say, for example, which is something we can't do right now. Like, we haven't actually really got an AoE cooldown outside of small talents. There's no big punchy cooldown that we can blow. So there's that room.
Which I hope we don't... everyone doesn't need cooldowns or situation. That's the one thing we had. And in MoP, we were like the kings of cooldown single target, just nonsense. Like 2.3 plus million single target burst back in MoP damage. And now, like, our cooldown single target burst has gotten, like, okay in Warlords with gear as we've scaled. But really, we're the kings of consistent, constant, pulsing AoE damage. Like fight with Zul'Harrak, and even a little bit of Manaroth, and obviously Iskar. Like, lots of targets, lots of ads, lots of time for Fire Nova. Which we've gotten, I'm pretty sure it's soft confirmed. I don't have it here on the Blue Legion feedback thread with all the blues posting for MMO Champions right up here, but I'm pretty sure we still have Fire Nova.
No idea on the fate of it.
Right.
For me, I don't know. The things that I can't find anything on is Fire Nova and Unleash, and how Flurry will work.
If we have Flurry, yeah.
Because the main benefit of Flurry is reducing Stormstrike and Lava Lash. Stormstrike's cooldown is now going to be dictated by Storm Fury and not its base cooldown, and Lava Lash has no cooldown. Mm-hmm. So it may go back to MoP Flurry, where we proc attack speed on crits, because they seem to be quite intent on giving everyone a sort of unique scaling with one of the secondaries. Now they've removed multi-strike. They want to hone in.
Well, if they give us something else like that with crit back with the old Flurry, we would scale with every stat, because crit would be good for Flurry, which gives us more auto attacks, which just gives us more Maelstrom procs from Wind Fury, and also gives us possibly more Storm Fury procs, because we already want Mastery for proccing both of those, and for increasing our elemental damage. And then even at that point, haste by default is going to be great because we want to attack faster.
Well, haste is more chances to crit to
right, like, exactly. It's great.
I think that's something they want because they don't want to add reforging in and on like a philosophical thought.
Right.
Because, like, say, Elemental have always historically disliked crit because Lava Burst auto crits. So they have to force like a mechanic to make it work. Whilst come Legion, Lava Burst, from what I can glean, won't auto crit anymore. So that amps the crit bonus up. So they want to stop any of these negative stat aspects because you can't reforge. You get an item, it has to have something for everyone on the stats. I think.
Right.
But that's personal speculation.
I don't think any, because that's like a lot of synergy, right? Like all three of those secondaries would be synergistic to each other. Obviously, versatility is just like, hey, you do more damage.
We don't want that.
I mean, it would be just flat damage and then just flat damage reduction, which is fine as like a filler stat. It happens. We don't like want it per se, but it's also like not terrible because there's only 4 stats in the game, to my knowledge. They have not confirmed nor denied other stats replacing the removal of multi-strike. I don't think they're going to add more. I don't know, of course. I asked about it and they wouldn't say. It's in my interview with the dev that I had with Lewis at the convention itself. So maybe we'll see something else. I don't really know if we need anything else because what are they going to bring back, like readiness or some other poop that didn't work in Warlords? Like
if they did readiness, that would be something. Oh, because that I was really sad to see it go forward. Right. But like, I mean, I suppose like they could go too far with the synergy if they did that. But that's the only thing I could think of that would make Flurry still relevant. Mm-hmm. Because there's, as it stands now, there's no reason for Flurry to exist in its current state, because haste would scale with the mastery to reduce the Storm Strike cooldown way more than the flat ticking cooldown would ever do from Flurry, unless it was a really high number.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely can make it so that we like all the stats, but I think they need to. Not every class can have that because then it becomes that you all scale too well, right? Yeah. And that's that terrible S word that everyone just hates, like the damn scaling, blah blah.
It's the buzzword that's always dropped when these things come up.
But I think that mastery is our backbone, and then haste and crit are very synergistic in their overall like functionality of stats. Like at the baseline there, like that looks good, right, for us, because that's just how it's kind of what we need, right? Like Storm Fury, based on the math they gave us on the preview, increases our attacks have a 2% chance to cause Storm Fury. Resetting the cooldown of Storm Strike, cause the next Storm Strike to cause 50% less Maelstrom and trigger no cooldown. So now, this is one thing I brought up when I was talking about this the other day when people were asking about, like, "Bae, what do you think about this, the Shaman preview?" Do we know in what regard they mean by attacks? Because does that mean... Because normally that could mean any spell casted. So that means when we hit Lava Lash, when we hit Storm Strike, when we hit Rock Biter, when we hit Flame Tongue, those initial hits and also all white attacks would have a chance.
Based on the wording they used, and I can only assume they've been very careful with the words they've chosen for these previews. The alternative would be the Arms Warrior, with the reset on Colossus Smash, and they very specifically state which spells reset Colossus Smash, whilst our Storm Fury simply says attacks. Right. So that would lead me to believe that it's any melee attack.
Anything.
That deals damage. So I'd probably cautiously remove Rock Biter, because Rock Biter doesn't sound like a melee attack. It sounds like an Earth Shock
with
a different name. And same with Flame Tongue, yeah. I'd bunch in Wind Fury, Lava Lash, Storm Strike. Those things I'd say would likely cause a proc. I wouldn't put my name to it, but that would be how I interpreted it. Because the same goes for Wind Fury, for Maelstrom.
Right.
Maelstrom weapon itself says when you deal damage with a melee weapon. So that covers, to me, every melee hit we do.
Well, technically, every melee hit we do, but that's the one thing too about Storm Strike, is that it energizes both weapons with lightning, deliver a massive blow to your target, dealing heavy physical damage, which is still weird. Energizes lightning to do physical, but if it still hits with both weapons, that melee hit could then still, like it does now, proc Wind Fury. But if it becomes like a formula where both weapons are taken into account and it does one Storm Strike hit, where it doesn't actually count as a melee hit, that means that it cannot proc Wind Fury, which would be a huge change. So Wind Fury literally could only proc off of main hand auto attacks, which 7% chance base plus the 5% base from Mastery, as I say, the base chance, which I assume are additive, because if it's multiplicative, 5% of 7% is like nothing.
Yeah, I'd put a stake in the ground that it is additive with that Mastery. Otherwise, that aspect that they put on there is completely pointless.
Right. because into Storm Fury, it looks like it's a low chance on the passive, but it also gets boosted by Mastery to another 5%, so it's actually 7%.
Which is also boosting Wind Fury as well, which means that
correct.
Mastery is even more Maelstrom power.
Right, and then of course Mastery also has Fire or Nature damage increased by a flat amount, which that only means Flame Tongue, Flame Shock if we have it, Fire-related totems, and then Rockbiter. So
and Lava Lash.
Yeah, fire-based damage for Lava Lash. Yeah. Which that's gonna be weird to see what the formula for that is technically, because Lava Lash is still an offhand-based attack that then deals fire damage. So are they going to have? Is it going to be a similar situation to how it is now with the formula in the background, or is it going to?
It's strange that it's staying as an offhand, because I suspect that's been the strongest reason that Lava Lash has had problems for WoD, because we still have the really brutal offhand penalty that, say, Combat doesn't have, and so our offhand hit with that is impeded quite strongly. So maybe they'll remove that completely. I mean, it's completely understandable or believable that they choose to do that.
You mean
to make
the 50% damage modifier on offhand weapon attacks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They may just say specials don't have that modifier anymore, which would work as well.
Just the white swing would, yeah.
Yeah, but as is, Lava Lash is basically just a dump. It goes from what it is now, which is the strong scaling spell, to just being your dump to manage your Maelstrom.
Right. Which, if we only have 100 and there's no artifact hook that gives us more, it's going to be a pretty frantic situation where what if you need to dump and you need to hit 2 Lava Lashes within Storm Fury procs and you need to hit Storm Strike, but you're at like 10, so you hit 2. You got to either hope for a crazy Wind Fury combo proc, or you got to hit 2 Rock Biters, and then you basically, what if Storm Fury procs again is going to be a charge system for Storm Strike? Are we going to have an Echo of the Elements that lets us build up a charge so we don't lose a Storm Strike charge? Because, like, there's a huge RNG window there where losing our soon-to-be hardest-hitting ability due to its cooldown component and the spending amount, like, that will just be the worst ever.
It means the swing of Maelstrom is going to be really big.
Right.
Like, the way when you'll be, like, minute-to-minute, well, moment-to-moment gameplay, you're going to be trying to sit it between, say, 40 and 70. And use Lava Lash to go down, because you're going to have the Wind Fury spiking it and your auto attacks as like a slow ticker on it.
Yeah.
And Rock Bite you're spamming to keep it up. But then you're going to get the Storm Fury proc, and Storm Fury proc effectively costs 90 Maelstrom to get full use out of, because you got the 30 from the first. It doesn't change the cooldown, and then you've got a Storm Strike for the full cost again. So that means you're going to, when Storm Fury procs, have to be at about 60 to 70 to drop the 30, hopefully generate enough to then use it again and then build back up.
Right.
Which it's going to cause a problem, I think, where if you get a Storm Fury proc, it's going to feel like you're wasting it to a player. Maybe not on like the base, like the Extreme Theorycraft level, but to the player, they're going to feel like they're wasting a Storm Strike cost if they can't spend it.
Right.
Unless we generate enough to facilitate that for the player.
The swing is maddening. Just looking at, like, just going through this when I was talking to chat the other night, is that you could technically hit a Rock Biter, like, just as you're melee swinging. You can Rock Biter, gain 15. Your main hand can Wind Fury. Your main hand hit gives you 5. The Wind Fury will give you another 15, so you're at 20 plus 15. Then you're at 35 in 1 GCD right there. So you can swing from 0 to plus 35 in 1 attack.
And you'll get an offhand swing as well.
Right after, yeah. So
before you use your next global, so then you've instantly generated 40 on the spot.
In less than 2 seconds, basically.
And almost half of that was completely unpredictable.
Sure.
Which may be quite a problem for some people. Because unpredictable generation, when it's a really core part of it, can be frustrating.
No, it definitely can. Anything else we missed in going over all this stuff? Anything else we wanted to touch on?
I mean, I think a lot of our talents are going to stay quite similar.
Sure.
Just incorporate the Maelstrom and incorporate the lack of Searing Totem, thank God.
Yes, thank you. Oh, that's such a... I mean, but it sounds like we're probably going to still have Magma Totem.
Possibly.
Possibly.
I don't want to risk saying, because I don't like magma totem either personally, but maybe they leave that in. Liquid magma I can see staying as just a totem we put down. Other than that, any further, I don't know with our totems.
Yeah, we'll definitely have
they
to
haven't
see.
really given anything for as much as they talked about totems early on. We didn't see much of it, so that's something to look forward to come beta.
Which beta could be around the corner. We have no idea. They really want to push this out soon, but it's going to be a long beta process. We're going to be in beta for 4 to 6 months, which I guess is fine considering how large of an expansion this actually is. I was actually talking to a member of the Blizzard team that this is like, it almost feels like overreaching. But then the response back was that like they want to overwhelm their players now. We've always said like there's not enough to do, and hopefully that we don't have the first like major content patch too far after the expansion leaks, because of course people will dunk this content. But in the grand scheme of things, they're going to be overwhelming us. And even just on our class reworks, it's already overwhelming for you and me anyway.
The class reworks are in like the game content will most likely be fantastic to play, but the class reworks are so big for, on the grand scheme of how many there are, plus new class. There is so much stuff in that has changed for some classes.
Yeah.
That even just the blogs was almost overwhelming to keep up with.
Yep.
Because of all the classes that I've played, just keeping up with what's changed and what there is potential to do is a lot. So they've got to test the hell out of it between us and the players and the devs as well.
Yep. We'll have to see. It's going to be a long beta cycle. I'm sure we'll have much more coverage in the future. This is just our first takes. Wordup, thank you for being on this little sit down with me, sir. Maybe we'll do more of these in the future. And Internet, if you like this one, give it a thumbs up on YouTube to let us know this is a little good talky talk, and I'll try to schedule more of these in the future. And until next time, everybody, we'll see you then.